welcome. Tonight, Pod and Deliver welcomes Mr. Scott Barber. Hey, Scott, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, Ruben and I, we've had several of your colleagues over the last year on, and we've probably the number one person people ask, at least for me, because I see them more than Ruben does, is how about Mr. Barber? What's wrong with him? Are you fighting with him? Is he, do you have something against this man? No. And I'll let you guys all know we've been working on this for some time to have Mr. Barber here with us, and we've actually had him in a way in the past. But
We had some technical difficulties.
we had some technical difficulties
on my end, not your end. So.
But we're so glad to have you here. And can you just let our audience know, a little bit about you? What do you teach, and how long you've been teaching, and so forth?
Sure, I've been teaching since 1995. Holy cow! Yeah, I've been teaching so long that, Jake, now I'm starting to get students of students, which is really scary. But my credential is in history, social science, and I also have another credential in business and finance, and another credential in marketing, sales, and service. So I'm able to teach like career technical education courses, the CTE courses, and I'm also able to teach the social science courses. So I teach psychology, sociology, believe it or not. Well,
I do.
Econ, and then I teach a class called small business management, a class called entrepreneurship or business economics, and it's like an entrepreneurship class. And then I teach a class called virtual enterprise. And a lot of times we call it virtual business, but there's actually a company called Virtual Business out there. So the virtual enterprise got a cease and desist order to call it virtual enterprise. Yeah, so I actually use both programs, believe it or not. But yeah,
wow.
we teach virtual enterprise. So I've been at the same school, ELC, since 1995. And kind of another way you and I kind of click, Jake, is my student teaching was done Southgate High School.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, you remember you telling me that. That's so great. Wow. Just recently, I find people who are connected to our community. And it's a wonderful community there with those kids and those families, and you're part of that community now because you've been there for over 2 decades. And so it's there's something special about that when you're giving your life away like that. And I know those kids love you because they've told me they love you. And part of the reason why is that, and similar to Miss Parker, you give your time. I mean, you've done sports and you talked about virtual technology. Can you tell us a little bit about that class? Because that's one thing when I thought about having you on, I said, I just really would like the viewers to hear about what you're doing there and what the kids are doing. Because I know I was taking part of their class. I mean, they were selling some, your students were selling some
sunglasses and eyeglasses
online, and I was buying it, and it seemed so real. I for a moment I think I told you I felt like maybe I was buying these items and I'm going to be charged.
Right. Well,
it was so real.
When we first started Virtual Enterprise, it was in 2001. And our first company was Platinum Mutual Insurance, and their tagline was "Don't meet us by accident." And so they were selling this insurance, and we had a grand opening where we invited teachers and admin and students in during their class period to come check out our stuff. And so we had our catalog, we had our accounting department, and the teachers came in, and then I did get that comment like at the end, so we're not really getting billed, are we? So basically the virtual enterprise is, here's the mission statement. It prepares students for a successful future by transforming classes into companies and bridging the divide between the classroom and the work world. So basically, virtual enterprise is a work-based learning classroom where the kids decide what kind of business they want to run, and then they produce it. So they have a fully functioning website with the shopping cart. They have a business plan, employee manual, marketing plans. I have different departments. I have an accounting department, a HR department, marketing department, sales department, IT department, and the admin team, who consists of a CEO, a COO, and a CFO. And these kids are getting like real experience. So, for instance, our CEO talks to other CEOs, not just in California, but around the country, to try to do business and so forth. So we have competitions we go to, not recently, which is why I had to grab you last year, Jake. We usually go to Bakersfield for a state competition, San Diego, and Pasadena for regional competitions. And there's competitions for like business plan and website, and we actually create a trade show booth. And several times our school's been first and second place and third place in the state for our booths that we've created. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to do that all online. So we did a Zoom thing, and it was after school. So I wasn't getting our students a whole lot of business. So I tried to call up everybody I knew. I texted you, I sent emails out, and we got some people through so the kids could sell stuff, get that feeling of selling and presenting their products and stuff.
I have a dumb question.
Yes.
Scott.
No question is a dumb question, like I always tell my students.
You earlier, when Jake mentioned this, and you did too, the idea of are we getting billed? Hope we're not actually getting billed. My question is, why not bill somebody? And maybe I'm wondering, could that be part of the assignment? Is, well, did they buy it off you? Why not try to have them bill somebody? And if you get a rejection, go back to the drawing board. Why were you? I'm just curious. Well, why not bill them?
Well, they do actually bill them, but it's not so this is like a thriving like virtual economy. So there's businesses in all kinds of industries. Like for instance, last year we were the sunglass eyeglass online store. This year we are taking we're upcycling used clothing and making them different, and then selling them for an upscale price. So we have people that come and purchase our products. There's actually an online banking system, and so like guests like Jacob could use their guest account and buy a product, and then my accounting department has to make sure, reconcile everything, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, and the kids get paid, like a salary.
Virtual money.
I guess what I'm asking is, could I purchase something right now and get something in the mail?
No.
I guess my question is, why not do something like that? Is there something?
We do that through Deca. We're starting to produce buttons, pins with the different activities that the kids are involved with, whether it's HOSA or Deca or the Health Academy, Tech Academy, basketball team. So I have a button making machine in my room. I also have a banner printer that we are going to start selling posters to the athletics for like the senior nights. I also have a laser engraver, so we can start engraving awards and stuff. And we also have a T-shirt printer and an embroidery machine where we're working on actually supplying stuff for people. But that I've got to get very proficient on those machines and get the students proficient before we can pull that off.
Now, what is Deca though again? I mean, what does that stand for?
Deca, I don't know that it stands for anything.
Oh, okay. That was an acronym.
No, but Deca basically is a marketing, accounting, hospitality, and tourism organization. It's called a CTSO, student CTSO. Yeah, Student Technical Organization. So basically, if they're in an academy, in a career technical pathway, they're supposed to have the ability to do some leadership opportunities. And so you're supposed to have an organization. Ours happens to be Deca. Our health academy has one called HOSA. And so the HOSA one is like medical based. Ours is more marketing, sales, and service and that kind of stuff.
And that's where you're wanting to in the future.
Yeah. So
okay.
So the kids can sell those things, and we can, get money for paying for competitions, for like when we need hotels for competitions,
buses and all that.
Buses and that kind of stuff.
Now, let me ask you, Scott. I know you've been doing this for some years now, and it's just grown and progressed. How many of your kids? Maybe this is a bad question, but is there a number of kids who go on to start their own business? And
totally.
In that field.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can. As soon as you said that, 4 kids came to mind right away.
What kind of work?
Well, there was one young lady who she was in my class, and she's like, "Mr. Barber, do you know that I do eyelashes?" And I said, "No, I have no idea." And she said, "Yeah, but I buy them for a certain price. I'm sure I can get them cheaper." And I'm like, "Yeah, you probably can." So she researched, and she followed them back to China, and she actually got her eyelashes produced in China, and she was freaked out. She's like, Mr. Barber, it's going to cost me $600 to get these things produced." I'm like, "Well, do you have the money?" She's, "No, I don't, but my boyfriend's going to give me $300, and my dad's going to give me $300 and get me started." I'm like, "Cool." So she was really like, "I don't know, I'm scared." She did it, and she sold out of them in a week. And she's like, "Mister, now what am I going to do? It's going to take me like 5 weeks before I can get restocked." I'm like, "Well, now you got to make a bigger purchase, right?" Well, about 3 months ago, I took my daughter to her grand opening of her studio in Riverside. She found out that she could actually, instead of putting eyelashes on herself, she could teach people how to put eyelashes on, and she could charge $1,400 for a 4-day session, a class. So she just bought a brand new Tesla, pink Tesla. She's so smart, and get this, she's 21. She's 21. She's gonna buy her parents a house next year.
That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So you have stories
a couple
like
of things.
this. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's stuff like that all the time.
Is her boyfriend? Does he get a profit of that original 300?
I don't know how they did that.
Thank you.
And the second thing is, I feel like this conversation is existing in the future. This will be happening more in the future, in the sense of you're giving real great advice in helping your students create businesses. This is where I think education's going, right?
Well, there's no better time than now to start your own business. I mean, just like this, I don't know if you can see it, my cell phone, right?
Yeah.
The cell phone is a mini computer, and it's on you, and there's so many things you can do with it. There's social media outlets that you can utilize to let everybody know you have a product and service. It's a great time. There's another gal, Alma Pedroza. She was at ELC in the class of 2008, and she was ready to go to college, but something happened with her family, and she couldn't go to college. So she got a job working at this car registration place, and she was watching, and she's like, "I can do all this stuff." And so her elbow partner that she worked alongside with, she started talking and saying, "Hey, I had this class, Virtual Enterprise. I knew how to do this stuff. I learned how to start my own business, and I could probably do this really easy." Well, the guy actually owned property, and he said, "You know what? I'll give you 3 months free rent because someone just moved out of my property until you get started, and then I'll charge you after 3 months." She did it, and she now has 3.
Oh, jeez.
Every time I see her on Facebook, she's in Cancun. She's all over the place. It's amazing. Yeah, so it's really cool to have, this effect. And it's not me, it's the class, it's the kids. The kids are the ones that are just amazing.
Yeah, but you're
I'm just,
there, so
I'm
you,
just
yeah.
putting it out there in front of them, and they're taking it and running with it like a football.
Yeah, but like Ruben said, that's in the future, and I think teachers are going to be doing that, where they're helping them with different types of jobs like that. That it's not the typical. Hey, I mean, what do we use our math for? They take all these math classes, but
Well,
maybe here, yeah,
I'm trying to explain to my fellow teachers at school is we're a college and career readiness. So what skills are you teaching your students that are
amen.
they're soft skills, collaboration, communication. Those are all things that are high up on the list of what employees want. And, the kids got to know their why, right? Why are they doing this? There's a really good book out there that I want to read, but I never have. I've been on the outskirts of it. Know Your Why, and it's a business book, but I think it applies here because if the kids know why they're doing something, then they're more motivated and more entrenched in what they're doing. And if they know that the why is you're getting a skill that's going to get you a job, that's getting them career ready. And so, in English, you guys are teaching communication skills, you're teaching collaboration skills, you're teaching, all these things that they're going to need out there in the real world. The math skills they're going to need. I use math skills in my business classes all the time. And, if we can kind of take what we're teaching and apply it to the real world, that's what gets it in their heads.
Just listening to you, Scott, and I'm remembering you and how you worked. Very involved teacher, spent his hours, took these kids places, especially these locations where they would compete. How do you, at your stage in your career, how is this different now than it was, let's say, 5-10 years ago? I mean, how are you able to keep that momentum?
It's the kids. I think bottom line is, what are the kids going to remember? What are they going to remember 5, 10, 15 years from now? I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, what is it? Guido Sarducci from Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah.
He does this little skit where it's the 5-minute college, because he's going to teach you everything you're going to remember in 10 years. He'll teach you that in 5 minutes. So he says, okay, I'm going to teach you econ, supply and demand. Okay, here, we're done with it. Now we're going to move on to Spanish. Okay, como está usted? Okay, if you got that down, that's what you're going to be. That's all you need going to remember from Spanish. Okay, now let's move on. And so, I mean, it's kind of true. Are they gonna remember like all the stuff we teach them, or are they gonna remember the relationships? I mean, and the skills that they're getting from us.
Skills for sure.
It's not gonna be the content. It's gonna be the skills. It's gonna be the relationships, and that's what's so important is building those relationships. It frustrates me to see some teachers that the kids know nothing about. The teachers know nothing about them. They're like private, and it's like clock in, clock out, clock in, clock out, and there's nothing invested. I think the kids will be willing to run through walls for you if you just care.
Yeah, for sure.
That is very important. You mentioned clock in, clock out. How do you connect in terms of when you create this model? Is there any front loading that you do? Because it sounds like you're trying to get them from the class out. Where do you start? I mean, what's the first 2 or 3 weeks looks like in Mr. Barber's class?
Well, it's different for the different classes. Virtual Enterprise is we're starting to figure out business ideations. Like, what are you guys interested? What do you guys know about? Is there any business partners in the community that can help us out? Along with that, they're fixing their resume, because I have them do a resume and a cover letter starting sophomore year. They fix it junior year. Senior year, it should be pretty awesome. Because they're getting ready for interviews. I have my business partners who happen to be alumni as well. We'll probably get to that later on. But the business partners will interview them for their different job positions. So my CEO, my COO, my CFO, they will be interviewed. And the way they get the job is they do the best interview and they have the best resume. And it may not be the best student that, you know, they've been together forever, and some of them have these like weird conceptions of each other and who would make the best leader, and inevitably the people that are interviewing them figure out who would make the best person for the lead.
This sounds similar to a school I used to work at called New Village, and they utilize the big picture model. And 12 years ago when I worked there, I thought, these people are crazy, where they were taking students out, build resumes, talk to entrepreneurs in the community and business owners. I thought, what is going on? But now they sound so innovative. That's where things are at. And this is how you're talking.
Yeah.
Connecting to the community and businesses, building relationships, connecting their skills with those businesses. That's a pretty good way to start, isn't it?
Definitely. We, in our academy, we have what's called a steering committee, and the sole job of the steering committee is to help us get stuff that's out there in the real world and bring that into our classroom. They provide guest speakers for us. They provide field trip opportunities for us. They're in the colleges as well, so they're telling us what's happening in the college. I mean, like, I know that right now, really big is the chat discussion streams. So professors will give the students a question, and they have to answer it online, and then they have to respond to two of their peers' responses. And so we know this because we're hearing that from our business partners, that hey, that's something that you need to teach your kids how to do.
And Scott, because you alluded to the alumni, because that was a very important piece, I think is different even about your school. Is that alumni association connected to the steering committee? As I remember, somewhat it was, but is that still the case? Or can you talk to the alumni association there?
Yeah, well, they're kind of two. They are and they're not. They're kind of two different entities. So what I do is, when the kids are ready to graduate, I tell them, hey, find me on Facebook and friend me, and I'll look for them too. Matter of fact, sometimes during graduation, that's what I'll be doing instead of listening to some of those speeches. Not the kids' speeches, the adult speeches.
Hey.
Although I always listen to yours. Well, and I listen to the lead teachers too. But yeah, so I'll send them a friend thing. But I notice, like, now lately they're like, oh, Facebook's for old people. So I've also created a Google form where I tell them, hey, give me your contact information, and then it goes. I set it up to a Google Sheets, so I have a listing now of hundreds of alumni with their information and where they're going to college, and or like what job they're in, what they majored in college and stuff like that. So I keep in touch with them through Facebook and through this database. And so some students, former students, have created an alumni group, and they've come back and helped us with guest speakers and help sometimes the kids with their FAFSA and college applications and that kind of stuff. And then we have also our steering committee, which right now our steering committee, I think all but one person is alumni. So, and that one person is actually married to one of our alumni that is a member as well. So, you know, these young people want to give back to what we gave them. So, like for instance, they've done career fairs for us, where last year we had 32 guest speakers, 28 of them were alumni. Here's how cool it is. Two of our alumni, we had a military group of four former alumni, or four alumni from different branches of the military. And two of them woke up at like 3 in the morning on Saturday, because they were in South Korea, to talk to our students on Friday afternoon for this career fair Zoom session. It was just amazing, and they were awesome. They actually went over, and you know, so we have these career fairs. My steering committee a couple years ago, we weren't funded for a year because of I don't remember what happened, but they decided they were going to do a fundraiser. They raised $10,000 for our program, because they asked me, well, how much do you need? I'm like, okay, well, the buses and the competition costs about $4,000. And they're like, okay, we got you covered. And then they raised, you know, almost 3 times that. So
you know, Scott,
it's amazing to be able to have those kids, you know, come back to your program.
I think that's a dream for a lot of schools, is to bring these kids back, or their adults, to come back and give back to their community. And this is something that, listening to you, I'm hoping those out there will just take it and just go with it, because I think that's what you have to do. Just take that step and just bring those people back. And
right,
like what you do is make those connections on Facebook or at the graduation, and
yep.
do that. I do something similar to that too. I let them know, hey, I'm not your friend before you graduate, but after you graduate, yeah, we have that connection.
Right. Exactly. And you know, I tell them, you know, in 2 to 10 years, remember that person that came into our class and spoke to you about college, or spoke to you about careers. Yeah, you're going to be that person. And they're like, wow, that's cool. And our school is a big family anyways. I mean, when we go to recruiting sessions, you know, we can't compete with the Southgate and the Maywoods and the Bells. We don't have cheerleaders. We don't have a big football team. We don't have a huge band. But what we do have is we have a family, a small community, and we always like to say, once a bulldog, always a bulldog. You know, and that's why on Facebook I celebrate, you know, the good things that we hear about the students, and then also, unfortunately, you know, the deaths that happen.
Yeah. You're definitely a connector, and I think that's what, you know, schools need, people like you to connect to the kids and to the community, because I find out a lot about what's going on because of you, and I appreciate that. Can I ask you something as I'm listening to you, Scott? Is there like a book or something that's kind of inspired you and has helped you in your teaching, as we're kind of wrapping it up, regarding what you do, because you do so much at that school, and I know it's not just you, I know, but you definitely are making a difference there at your school. Is there something that you, over the years, you say, hey, this is something that's helped me, or it's helped me with my teaching?
I don't know if there's so much a book. I mean, there's the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, you know, and I think that the big one of his is begin with the end in mind. So you know, start with what you want to happen, and then work backwards from there. Like, okay, how can I make that happen? I try to show that to students too. I mean, that's project planning in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. It's like, find what you want to do, even if you're doing like a video, a film, right? You like, okay, if I need the video at this time, okay, I probably need like 7 days to edit it, and I probably need like 3 days to shoot it, and then I probably need about 3 days for pre-production. I need about a day to write the script, you know. So you're like, you're beginning with the end in mind, and you're working backwards. Right. And I think that, you know, the teaching's the same way. What do you want to happen, and then what do you need to do to make that happen?
Right.
It's always a good reminder to frame it like that. That's a we hear that sometimes, but it's always good to go in every Monday thinking in those terms. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. And then I think too, instead of books, I think people. You talk about being a connector and stuff, and
what person has connected? I don't know, has influenced you then?
Right. I mean, well, there's no one person. Like I talked about. I think I said something about Dr. Cross. He was my teacher, my professor at Cal State Long Beach, and he told me, you're not teaching curriculum, you're not teaching a subject, you're teaching students. That was big. Frank Davis was a huge influence, rest his soul. Miss Parker and Mr. Noski, working with them.
Yeah, we've had them on. They're
cool. Mr. Gomez, when we taught psychology together, that was some of the best times I've ever had in education. I remember we'd sit down at lunchtime on a Friday and go, okay, you had taught the subject before and I hadn't. So I'm like, okay, what'd you do, Jake? And you told me, and I'm like, well, what do you think about this? And then you'd go, yeah, that'd be cool. And then you'd go, and I did this. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And like we worked off of each other. I had another teacher like that, Jen Underdahl. Oh, yeah. She was an English teacher. And actually, I just found out she's now like an exec for Marvel. Amazing. She left ELC. She worked there for 5 years. She was an English teacher, and she said, I remember her saying this. I think I want to like do set design in Hollywood. So she went on to do set design and found out about what is it, IG.
Technology.
The technology aspect of it, and now she's like the person in charge of the Marvel special effects. Amazing. But when I was working with her, we did these cool projects where she read The Great Gatsby and I did the Roaring Twenties in U.S. history, and then we had a radio program that they had to do in Mr. Davis's computer class, and they had to interview one of the characters of The Great Gatsby. They had to bust in with like news events of the time, so that there goes the history, right? And then they had to also put in some commercials that would have been around the time,
right,
around the time of what was happening, and they'd have to like do an outro with like some jazz music, and then maybe an intro with some jazz music. So we did projects like that were like super impactful for the students and super impactful for me too. I mean, those were my mentors.
Scott, that's what's for teaching. It doesn't have to be you're an island. I mean, you just share that you and I, which is true. I still do those lessons, so in psychology, and we worked. That's our department, but you also went out and worked with another department and say, hey, let's do these. We have the same kids. Let's do some lessons that we're both doing. We're hitting the 20s. Let's talk about and I think that's something that makes teaching worthwhile, and the kids love all that. They just love those projects, and especially when they see two of their teachers working together and coming up with these ideas. They say, oh wow, they're on the same plane.
Right. Well, and that's how Kim and I try to work too, because my virtual business, the marketing stuff has a lot to do with art and design. So when she's in her design class, she's going, yeah, how many of you are Mr. Barber's virtual enterprise? And they raise their hand. Okay, when you're doing like your advertisements, you need to figure out the color scheme, and these colors mean something. And then she goes into their color theory. So
that's awesome.
It's cool that they know we talk, and we can kind of like throw in, okay, when you do this, then remember you already did some of this before, and it's application, and they see that, oh, this is like art, but it's like also business. Wow, okay, that's cool.
There's a connection they're making. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Scott, let me tell you something. Moving to comedy here for a moment. I think we might have mentioned to you last time I talked to you, that my brother here is in the comedy world a little bit here. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to go into his private life too much, but he definitely is a funny dude.
I'm still waiting for tickets, by the way.
You and I really am going to do this, Scott. I'm going to take you to one of his shows because it's really cool, and he does some really fun stuff. But we wanted to ask you, because I've gone with you and your wife, my wife and I, we've gone to see some comedy, and I definitely want to do that again. But as we're doing that, I think sometimes our students don't see that we have other things that we have interest, and we've had people on talking about music or sports. And I know you're a big comedy guy. Can you share with the audience who are your top 3 comedians, and then we'll let Ruben and myself, I'll share as well. But top 3 in your.
Well, I've been going to comedy for a long, long time. I can remember when I was like 15 getting into the Reader's Digest, and it always, they had that section that says laughter's the best medicine, right?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I really believe that. I mean, I think it's, well, I know, since I also teach psychology, that there's studies out there that shows, you got laughter helps you physically, mentally, emotionally, the whole works. So I love to laugh. So my big 3, it's hard to do 3, right? So, okay. So the 3 icons that I think are out there, and there's more than that. This is super hard.
It is.
Sam Kinison. I saw him live in
No, you did. Did you?
At the Celebrity Theater in the Round. It was 3,000 seats, and the stage was rotating. So if you can imagine Sam Kinison doing his stand-up and rotating in a circle. So we saw his back, we saw him by the side, keep on going. He was amazing. Robin Williams, amazing, like super fast wit. Like you couldn't laugh or you'd miss about 5 jokes.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go back old school. This one was hard, but Red Fox.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Stanford and Son, but
it was a little blue, that red.
Yeah, well, and some people are a little red-faced at some of the jokes, but yeah. And then like for sentimental favorites, and I know this is gonna like bug Ruben, but I love Carlos Mencias. I know he's been like charged with like stealing jokes, but I think everybody on that list has been accused of that one time or another. Jay Leno. I can remember going to, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but when he was doing the Tonight Show, he had a deal with the Comedy and Magic Club. Every Sunday night, he would perform.
Still does.
But while he was going through his the Tonight Show, he'd have index cards in his pocket, and he'd pull them out and he'd start giving the jokes. And if the room just erupted, he'd put it back in his pocket. If it was kind of like so, he'd throw them all over the stage, right? And then throughout the week, you would hear those jokes in his monologue.
Smart.
And then the last person, sentimental favorite, who's not like a giant but super funny, Christopher Titus.
Oh, Christopher Titus. I didn't know that name.
Titus, yes. You should go see him. He's got this great bit about trophies, participation trophies.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all love those. Ruben, can you top that? I mean, he's doing some great ones there.
Before I give you my top 3, I will say after we get off camera, I'm gonna send you I've been booked. I'm booked this Friday, Scott, so I will comp you to see my show.
Wow.
I haven't even caught my mother.
Wow.
She had to pay.
I paid too. I paid too last time, Scott.
Hey, I'll pay, man. I just want to know when.
This Friday. And then the other thing before I give you my top 3, Scott, you were doing so well when you mentioned Sam Kinison and Red Fox. Then you had to talk about Carlos Mencia, Christopher Titus.
What?
Jay Leno. I'm sorry. Okay, I do like Jay Leno, but sort of.
You don't like Titus? I think he's hilarious.
Oh, Ruben.
Here's my top 3. First off, in no particular order, I'm gonna just say Mitch Hedberg, only because I'm in awe of those one-liner jokes that he can just spit off. I have so many moments of joke envy with him, where I look at his joke and it looks so simple, and I think, oh man, I wish I had written that. It's so good. It's so perfect. He has so many jokes like that. Mitch Hedberg. And then here's two for you who are just funny, and they don't even try to be. They could be interviewed and they're not trying to be funny. And then they go on stage and they are very funny. And the first one I'm thinking of, Norm Macdonald, the late Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
He was so good. He was so funny. So many moments. His podcast, his stand-up, his specials. I loved Norm Macdonald. And then I have a new guy on my list who is really worth going back to, and that's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, I was just saying that. I was thinking the same thing. Eddie Murphy should be on there too.
What people remember is the Delirious special and the Raw and all that. But what's way more informative is if you watch him on the Tonight Show. If you watch his first Tonight Show appearance, it's all clean, and it kills.
Yeah,
it's so good. He can do anything. And when if you watch him on Jerry Seinfeld, Comedians with Coffee, he could just be sitting there drinking coffee with Seinfeld, and he'll just give a throwaway line or throwaway comment, and you're laughing. He's always funny.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, top 3 of all time.
You know who's like that too is his sidekick.
His sidekick?
Yeah. In Coming to America.
Oh, you talk about
Arsenio Hall?
Arsenio
Hall. Yeah. I saw him live. He was hilarious. And
he's funny. He's not on that level, but he's funny.
Yeah. Well, there's also Richard Pryor. How do you leave him off?
I almost had him on my list.
You have to leave. I left Richard Pryor off. I left George Carlin off. There's a lot of people. I left Sam Kinison off.
Rickles.
Oh yeah, Don Rickles.
Don Rickles.
You know what comedy is? Comedy's like music. You have your favorites.
Yeah.
You do. You can just pick your favorites. But you're right. All of those guys are great.
Orny Adams now is pretty good too. I've seen him a couple of times. My son loves him.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will end with my favorite 3, and I'll go. I had Norm Macdonald as Ruben did. I mean, I was just crushed when he passed away. I loved all his bits on Saturday Night Live when he went after OJ, and then they fired him. He just kept doing it. He just kept saying stuff. He just didn't care. He just kind of beat to his own drum. And I could still listen. I still listen to his bits. I'm like, oh man, he's so great. When he was on Conan and so forth. Bill Burr, he just, angry dude. Sometimes like that angry persona, and it's just real when you get angry. Sometimes even when you're stuck in traffic, the things he says and things that I think, I go, oh, that's how I feel. I just want to go through that windshield. But just the realness of him. And then I like Jim Brewer. I just think Jim Brewer is hilarious. I just listen to him all the time and just laugh. And I remember when he was at SNL as well, and I wish he would stay there longer, but he just made me. When he was on, I was just glued to the TV and just his stories, because he just goes into them and you just follow him with it, fall right through and just laugh. So it looks like we have some similar ones and some different ones, but these guys are all people that I think we all enjoy, right?
Yeah, this is tough. To do 3 is just tough. I mean, I think to do 20 would be tough.
Oh yeah. Well, you've gone for years, like you said, and you've seen way more than I have. So.
And I love Craig Schumacher.
Jeez. You know who I used to, I don't know. I hesitate to bring this up, but it's the elephant in the room. I like this comic. He would have been my top 3. It would have probably been Norm Macdonald, Bill Cosby. It was Bill Cosby. I was going to say Bill Cosby prior to his fall, because I used to introduce him. I used to teach public speaking using Bill Cosby's bits because he was so good. Yeah. But of course, I can't talk about him now because I
thought of him though. I was going to say yeah. But well, listen, Scott. Go ahead.
He was the comics comic too. A lot of those great comics would defer to him. So what a tragedy. Anyway.
Tough.
But Scott Barber's not a tragedy. See,
he's not.
That's what comics do. They segue.
They segue
seamlessly.
You know, Scott, we
That
do.
was pretty amazing segue there.
Right. Thanks, Rube. Thanks. Hey, man, we appreciate you being on with us, and we finally got you on. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll stop getting those emails telling me what's wrong, and what's wrong with him. Why aren't you guys getting along? But listen, kids, they're not kids anymore, right? Listen, adults. We had them on, and I appreciate you, Scott. And hopefully we could do this again. And
Hey, yeah, and if you guys ever need, like one of you guys can't make it and need a guest spot, I'm more than happy to do that too.
That idea, very good, Scott. Very good.
Let's
I would love
do
it.
that.
We will hold you to that. But listen, you have yourself a good one, and
Ruben, where the heck are you? Are you in the Ukraine or something? Like I see the balcony and
what's going on there?
What's going on in the back?
We got to work on those backgrounds. I remember last time you shared that with us, and
I'm a fan of Rear Window. Remember that one?
Looking.
There's a courtyard where there's binoculars. Not that I'm the one holding the binoculars. No controversy.
Nice. Very nice. Well, listen. Hey, we'll take off here, and you have yourself a good night, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, been fun.
All right, Scott. Thanks.
Take care.